I have one major premise for all of my gaming conversations. That premise is the gaming market is changing, or you can hear me put it in other ways saying the gaming industry is shifting. This is something that I've seen since 2018. I took my second channel to continue to discuss it after so many years. In my conversations and in my video, I've been talking about how Xbox has a bigger first-party lineup than PlayStation and has basically overtaken them in that particular area. Now, keep in mind that for the most part, Xbox was criticized heavily by the media, by talking heads, by Xbox fans and PlayStation fans alike, that they did not have a first-party offering that was substantial. I remember the past few years, this has been the theme and Xbox's biggest problem. Now, after circumstances, in a sense, led to Xbox acquiring Bethesda and Activision, and the circumstances of which I'm saying are, number one, in the case of Bethesda, they were trying to make games like Starfield, a timed exclusive. They made Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop timed exclusives. And then in the case of Activision, Bobby Kotick himself was wanting Xbox to give them a higher profit share that PlayStation was not paying. So the scales were weighed against them, and they decided that they were going to open a bank account, and then they acquired these two publishers. Well, now that these two publishers are in their coffers and publishing for them, there is no way that PlayStation can ever keep up, because now the circumstances have changed and Xbox has somehow out of nowhere grown bigger in terms of first-party offerings. To this, what I'm starting to see is some PlayStation fans want to somewhat wiggle away from this new reality by switching it up a little bit. In fact, there are two different variations of the argument, and we're going to look at one of them in a sense today. So this audience member of mine wrote and said, in a capitalist competition, fair, in quote, doesn't matter, and there aren't really too many rules either. Xbox has skated closest to the edge in buying Activision, and the FTC still might try to unwind that deal from PlayStation, But from PlayStation's perspective, that's just how the cookie crumbles when you're trying to compete against a $2 trillion company. Now, before we actually got to this point, I already explained the circumstances between, that actually were in place before Activision was acquired by Microsoft. So again, that's not an anti-competitive play, because that's what I think this comment is insinuating. It was a play to stay and preserve themselves as a business. And everybody that's paying attention knows this. This is why we go through the context, in order that people don't say things that are not accurate, and then some people walk around believing it. And I see even people in the media making similar errors, like there weren't circumstances that actually were, circulating around before Xbox started to pull out money and buy up all these companies. Then this person said, but at this point, Xbox's lead in first-party content is pretty irrelevant if most of it is going to PlayStation anyways. Now, this is where I say, no, we must not downplay. We must, first of all, concede and capitulate that PlayStation has lost the lead in first-party offerings and will probably continue to be behind for a good amount of time, simply because Bethesda was already capable of dropping 2 games about or so every year, or at least a game a year, and Activision was already doing a game a year and probably 2 games every 2 years. And then Blizzard will come out of nowhere with a game maybe every 3 or 4 years, which has put Xbox in a very interesting situation. Not only that, Xbox is then taking these games and putting on a subscription service, which makes it just something that PlayStation cannot fathom from a value perspective. And so we must say, okay, this has now changed. Now, does this, in a sense, invalidate or make this particular lead irrelevant because it's coming to PlayStation? The answer to that is no. Xbox never really wanted to follow full-blown exclusivity, and they already announced and made that known. And so we need to take it for that. Do you know how y'all always tell me that PlayStation already said they were going to bring their live service games to PC day one? So because they've said it, we need to basically take them at that. Here's another instance where we need to take Xbox at their word in terms of how they've actually called it out and said, we're not going to basically do exclusivity except it's, something that we feel benefits us from an exclusivity perspective. So this is basically what it is. And the standard never really mentioned anything about the games coming to anybody else's platform, because it was always about first-party offerings. And that's because Xbox was already taking its games to PC anyways, so nobody was making the argument about Xbox bringing its games to PlayStation like 6 or 7 years ago. It was all about Xbox either keeping its games exclusive or away from PC, which Xbox did not seem willing to do and was not willing to do at any rate. So this new, little caveat that's being put here because it's coming to PlayStation makes it irrelevant. I want to swat that down and say that's nonsense. Let's not do that, okay? With a big grin on my face, that RDC World's latest video about how developers wish they could talk to gamers, the CEO grin that he did. Yeah, imagine that kind of grin over here with me saying, no, we're not going to do that simply because it is unfair. And why I say this is because many people are, in a sense, now rattled by this new shift in the industry. They say since these games are coming to PlayStation, that's more of what you call a comfort statement, what we call on the internet a cope. Because these games coming to PlayStation, yes, some of them will come to PlayStation. But again, because these generalizations are made and nobody is wanting to actually admit the fine print of all of these conversations, people are going to get misled again. So what has been communicated by Xbox's leadership? The games are going to come on a case-by-case basis. They've signaled that some of their games are going to go, but only on the internet are they signaling that the whole slate is going to go. Even I am pro whole slate because I do not necessarily care much for exclusivity, but I have to also follow the information that we have, and that information does not signal that the whole slate is going to PlayStation. It's only in our particular conversation that we see some PlayStation fans and some talking heads making it seem like it's the whole slate. And if the whole slate goes, it still goes ahead to, in a sense, fulfill, Xbox's goals at the end of the day, which never really decided to center on exclusivity. They've been trying to move away from exclusivity for a long time. I don't know why people are pretending like this is a new thing. Do y'all remember when they tried to do a come together crossplay thing with Nintendo and PlayStation ad back in the day during the PS4 and Xbox One days? And people were like, get out of here, Xbox. It's because you failed. You want everybody to come here. They knew that their business model could not thrive on exclusivity anymore. So moving away has been a shift and a change that they've been wanting to make for a long time. So let's not pretend like, because their games are coming to PlayStation, well, then it doesn't mean anything. No, they never cared for that because as we've seen, exclusivity is not benefiting anyone. PlayStation, even themselves, understand that exclusivity does not even carry them. They have to go to PC. Xbox is looking and saying, we wouldn't even waste time and act like we're only going to be exclusive to PC. We're going to take our games where people are going to buy them. Can the game run on the Switch? Yes. Deliver it to the Switch. Can it run on the PlayStation? Yes. Check how much is sold. Is sold enough? Okay, we're gonna wait a little bit, or maybe we won't do it. How is it gonna run on Xbox? How is it going to sell? Well, boss, Indiana Jones is gonna cost as much money as it takes for us to actually make the game, and we have to pay all these fees. Really? Where are we gonna find people to play on that? PC. Is it gonna be enough? Well, it'll be probably enough. Maybe not really enough. Who else can play it? PlayStation. Send the game to PlayStation. They're not wasting time. They're not sitting here making you making you wonder if a game is going to be out on PlayStation. They just go ahead and tell you in advance. And if the game's not going to be out on PlayStation, then the game is not going to be out on PlayStation, like they've said with Starfield. Now, that could change, but I don't see it changing really because that game did well. So at the end of the day, the lead is there, and we now have to ensure that people are informed. Because if somebody wants to add an Xbox unit or an Xbox, ecosystem to their gaming library, they need to be able to know and understand exactly what is going on. So to talk about, but it's coming to PlayStation anyways, okay, we all knew that. I don't know how people didn't know this. We all knew that, and it's there to subsidize Game Pass. So we're happy that it's coming to PlayStation. I'm happy it subsidizes Game Pass for me as a PC player. I get to pay $11 a month. So you PlayStation guys, by all means, it's great that you guys are heavy spenders because, you tell everybody all day how you buy games and Xbox players don't buy games and they're conditioned to buy games. So you are the subsidy for this new learned behavior of these Xbox players, I guess. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.